What is going on, guys? Harry here, and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. If you are new to my channel and you haven't subscribed, please do. And if you do enjoy this video, please leave the video a thumbs up. It does mean a lot to me. In today's video, we're going to be looking at 5 under-23 MLS players that I think you should consider buying for this upcoming season. Just for a bit of transparency, I don't own all these players. I own one of them. I'll just tell you straight up now. It's an obvious one. Many people own him. This is not me pumping my own players. So let's just get straight into it. Okay, so in terms of like MLS under 23 players this year, it's going to look a little different to last year, right? So we've lost some big players. I don't know why I'm saying we, as if I own the league or something. But yeah, the MLS have lost a lot of under-23 talent, basically, from last season. Ezequiel Barco was one of the standout players. He's now gone to River Plate. And some other notable mentions is obviously Ricardo Pepi going to Augsburg. And just recently this week, Kevin Paredes moved to Wolfsburg in the Bundesliga. So yeah, the pool of under-23 talent players, whatever you want to call it, is shrinking, to be fair, in the MLS in terms of like real quality. You know, there's no guarantee that these players I've picked are going to have good seasons. These are just my predictions. So don't take what I say as gospel. This is just purely my opinion. So the first player we're going to look at is Jesus Ferreira, right? So we're over on Sorare Data now. Sorare Data is an awesome third-party data provider. If you don't use Sorare Data, I don't understand how you can get by on Sorare. That's just the bottom line. I'm not sponsored by them in any way, but yeah, you just have to use Sorare Data, right? So Jesus Ferreira, this is the only player out of the 5 that I do own in my gallery. I bought him. When did I buy him? There we go. Bought him 26 days ago, right? So yeah, I knew I needed a under-23 forward, you know, for the summer. There wasn't much going on in the Asian leagues for me right now, so he was just nailed on for me at the time. His price has risen dramatically since then. As you can see here, his rare's going for 0.9 ETH, limited 0.143. So yeah, he's not cheap by any means, don't get me wrong, but I do think he'll be worth every penny, personally, just because I've heard this spoken about on Sorare Data's podcast, so I'm not going to like sit here and say that I came up with this angle, but ultimately there's not many like elite scoring under 23 forwards playing over the summer. Off the top of my head, Jesus Ferreira is going to be one of them. Julian Alvarez is going to be another. But after that, there's a bit of a drop off. Don't get me wrong, there could be some breakouts that I'm unaware of, but just going off previous data and last year, I don't think the pool is going to be very big. Hence why I think Jesus Ferreira's price has gone up so much. He's just recently this week made his first start for the US national team. And yeah, I just really like the look of him. His AA game is very good for a forward. He's hit some really, really high scores, 96 here, 91, some high 70s. And then even his AA game, like I said, if he doesn't score / assist / win a penalty, yeah, his scores are still respectable for a forward, you know, 59s, 53s. Or he seems to get in the 50s quite comfortably, and that's down to, you know, he takes a lot of set pieces, he's involved in a lot of play, loads of key passes. We'll go over to SofaScore, where you can see here on his heat map, very heavily red here and here, meaning that he takes a lot of corners, which then leads to more chances created, which then leads to more goals / assists. The fact that he is on set pieces as a forward is huge, I think, for me, as well. The other angle is like Pepi's left now. Pepi was like the golden boy last year. Obviously, he's a little bit younger than Jesus. He's a lot more athletic as a forward. Jesus is more technical. And yeah, I think that's the reason. Well, the fact that Pepi's younger, he did score loads of goals, to be fair to him. But he's just super athletic. And that obviously goes a long way in sort of getting that move to like the big European teams. Not to say that Jesus Ferreira won't ever do that, but it just takes a little longer for players like Jesus to sort of break through and get their moves. But nonetheless, I think he's an unbelievable player. So 8 goals, 8 assists last year. He averages 2.2 key passes a game. I just think there just isn't going to be many forwards like him playing in the summer for me. And this is why I'm picking him in my top 5 players that you should look out for the MLS in 2022. The next player on our radar is John Tolkin, who plays for New York Red Bulls. He's 19 years old, so as you can see here, he's under 23 until 2027, so there's loads of utility out of him. He's a lot cheaper than Jesus Ferreira, obviously because his output is a lot less and has been a lot less. I really like him as a player. He's not the biggest in the world. He's got a lovely little left foot. He's busy, he presses well, takes set pieces, which again is another big thing for me. You will see a theme within these players that I've picked. Yeah, to give you a hint, set pieces is the key word. I like him a lot. I don't think he's going to set the world alight, or I don't think he's going to set the MLS alight by any means. But I do think he will improve his scores next year. As you can see here, he's hit some really, really high peaks here with, one decisive here, all-round score of 37. All-round score 30 here, decisive again, 90 points. And then there's a load of 50s. There is some orange scores as well. Unfortunately, John Tolkin is subject to fullback tax. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a word that I describe for fullbacks losing the ball, possession lost, whatever you want to call it. It's heavily penalized on the scoring matrix on Sorare. You get like a -1 point for doing so. So if he gives the ball away like 20 times a game, there's -20 to his score, right? So yeah, this one is like a tough one because you want him to be on the ball, creating chances, taking risks, trying to get those decisives, but ultimately that does come at a cost. There is a trade-off there, is that he's going to lose the ball a lot, right? So it's similar to like a Trent situation. I'm not comparing Tolkien to Trent, but it's the same sort of concept, right? So yeah, I just think he is going to have a very good season. He's versatile as well. He doesn't just play left back. He plays in the midfield as well, centre mid, and he does occasionally, when they play a back 3/5, he does play left centre back as well, of a 3. So yeah, very versatile. Like I said, I don't think he's going to set the world alight, but I think he'll be a very, very solid scorer next year. If he's still taking set pieces, like you can see here on SofaScore, heavily red again on both sides, like Jesus Ferreira's was. So, if you're taking corners, if you're taking free kicks, you are going to be in with a chance, or more of a chance, of scoring decisive. It's just as simple as that. Like you can see here, only 1 goal, 1 assist last year, played an average of 70 minutes per game, started 22. So I don't want to say like he broke out last year, because I don't think he did stats-wise. I think he did as a player, in the sense like he started most games as a 19-year-old in the MLS. That's a massive thing to do. But I think this season is where we're going to see him, decisively kick on. I personally think, if he does still have the responsibilities that he had last year in terms of the set pieces and stuff. You can pick John's rare card up roughly for 0.118, and then his limited is roughly 0.098. So pretty cheap, I think. I don't own him. There's no reason why I don't or anything. I just have my players really set for the summer now. I don't need any more players. But yeah, I've been sort of tracking him for a while. I do like him a lot. And like I said, yeah, I think he's at a decent price. His output kind of is relative to his price, right? Like, I'm going to be biased and think that he's going to play well next year, but that's not going to reflect in his price right now, because he hasn't done too much last year, right? Like, of course, he's got some decent scores, but ultimately he wasn't like a nailed-on starter. Like we said, he started 22 out of 29, I think it was. So, there's improvements to make in those areas, but I do think he is a very, very good player. And yeah, hopefully we see him break through next year in the MLS. The next player on my list is Christian Caceres, again playing for New York Red Bulls. He's 22 years old. He is a Venezuelan international. I don't think he plays every single game for them, but he has done. He started games for them, which is very encouraging for a player his age. Plays in the midfield. His Sorare scores, don't scream out, wow, this player's unbelievable on Sorare. He has some really, really nice scores here, 93s, 80s, some low 70s, high 60s. A lot of yellow here as well, where obviously he doesn't really do much, but these are more international games. And then, yeah, there's a few games where he's come off the bench as well. So, yeah, it doesn't, if I look at this page, it doesn't scream to me, wow, this player is outstanding. But that's the whole point of sort of finding players when they're not outstanding, buying them then, and then obviously, next season hoping that they get the breakthrough. I don't own him, to be transparent. Like I said, Jesus Ferreira is the only player I own in my list of top 5 players today. So I don't think I have any plans to own him, but I do like the look of what I'm seeing. So on SofaScore, again, we see here he does take set pieces, mainly from one side, which is okay. It's better than not taking them at all. Guessing obviously he shares them with Tolkien as well. Started a load of games last year, 25 starts. Seems to have roughly 75 minutes a game. 6 goals, 3 assists, which is a decent output. It's not incredible. 1.5 shots per game, 1 key pass a game. Watched his highlights, watch a few games of him live. He's busy. He's not the most athletic player in the world. He seems to get in the right positions quite often. I wouldn't say he's the most technical in the world, but he seems to sort of have a decisive output in terms of assists and goals. And yeah, he's just a warrior. He's a very determined player who you want on your side. You know, he's going to give you everything all game. He's a bit of a box-to-box midfielder, is the way I would describe him. And yeah, he's all action, to be honest. And yeah, I think at the price he's at, 0.15 ETH, a bit more than Tolkien, and then 0.01 ETH for the limited, I don't look at it and go, wow, this player's like stupidly undervalued, because like we said, we look at his previous stats and they don't scream out, wow, this player's amazing, right? But we're hoping next year, you know, another season under his belt, that he can sort of, you know, have a bigger impact. I think he's a good option to have as a midfielder if you're looking for under 23 midfielders in the MLS next season. Okay, so the last outfield player that I'm going to mention in this video is Jozy Mahlovich. Okay, so he's a centre midfielder for Montreal Impact. He is under 23 until next season, June next season. He's got some nice L40s, nice L15s, and nice L5s, to be honest. Very, very established player. Now, this one's a little bit more expensive than the last two we've looked at. Less expensive than Jesus. But yeah, in terms of his output last year, he was phenomenal. As you can see here, loads of dark green scores, high 80s. Didn't really get into the hundreds and the 90s. So if we look on SofaScore, again, he is on set pieces. Another reason why I have him in my list. 34 games, 32 starts, 83 minutes on average per game. 4 goals, 14 assists. So clearly this guy is a creator. Mahlovich defensively, I wouldn't say he's like the strongest for a midfielder, but his creative output is phenomenal. Like you can see here, 14 assists, 2.3 key passes a game is huge. And we know in the MLS, there always seems to be goals. Goalkeepers seem to leak goals all the time. So yeah, loads of chance for decisive, like we can see on his Sorare scores as well. He does fire blank like most players do, so you're always going to have off days, but there's a lot of green scores there, which is very, very encouraging. That doesn't mean he's going to necessarily replicate that next season, but ultimately we'd like to think if he comes back from pre-season and, you know, or has had a good pre-season, feels fit, I don't see why this guy can sort of lead the assist chart for the MLS next season, to be honest. He plays in between the lines really well. In and around the box, he just seems to have that killer pass, that killer touch, that killer layoff to set his strikers, his wingers in on goal. And so yeah, I think he is a very, very nice pick for the MLS next season. Price wise, he is a little expensive. 0.37 ETH for the rare and then 0.05 ETH for the limited. But I do think you would get, I don't want to say your money's worth, but I do think you're going to get a very good output from him next season. I'd be shocked if he doesn't break the 10 assist mark next season. Personally, I would like to think he would hit 15 plus going off last season. Obviously, there's no guarantees in football. We all know this. But yeah, I do think he is a very, very nice player to pick up for next season. And last but not least, we have a goalkeeper in the form of Gabriel Slonina. Very, very interesting one this is. He's 17 years old, born on the 14th of May. He's under 23 until 2028, which is crazy. He's got to be the youngest starting goalkeeper right now in, you know, professional football in terms of, you know, the European leagues, American leagues, etc. Right? I don't think there is a younger goalkeeper starting for their club. Plays for Chicago Fire, who aren't great at all, to be honest, or weren't great at all last season. And in the time that he played, he hit some really, really good scores. As you can see here, he got a few clean sheets. Clean sheet here against Salt Lake, clean sheet against Nashville, clean sheet against New York City, and then a couple where he was busy. He conceded 2 goals here, but an all-round score of 22 is very nice. Got another clean sheet here against New York City. So yeah, and also there is a few oranges as well. He must have had an error led to goal here and here with a decisive of 15. So yeah, he's not perfect like every goalkeeper. Every goalkeeper makes mistakes, especially when you're 17 years old. I can't imagine how good this kid is to train with, to play with. You know, he must be incredible because yeah, to start as a goalkeeper that young is insane. Like, it genuinely is. And no disrespect, like, it is the MLS, but still it is ridiculous, like, genuinely. There has been rumors though about a move to Europe. Like, I've seen like £10 million figures or $10 million figures flying around. I don't know if he'll move or if he doesn't move, but ultimately if he does stay, I think he is a very, very solid keeper to have in your under-23 team next season. There is cheaper options, don't get me wrong. This video isn't necessarily like the most undervalued under-23 players. It's just players that I think will do well next season. So if he does stay, I do think he'll have a really, really good season, building on from last season. There's not much to look at really on SofaScore. He started 11 games last year, 90 minutes obviously each game. Concede roughly 1.5 goals a game, which, you know, isn't great, I guess. But ultimately, there is a few clean sheets in there, and every goalkeeper concedes goals most games. Like, it's just how it is. Also saved a penalty, apparently. 4.2 saves per game is nice. But ultimately, you know, it's tough with goalkeepers as it is, never mind with under 23 goalkeepers. There is other options. You can look at Hassel for Vancouver, Ochoa for Salt Lake City. There's a few other options out there. Slonina is the most expensive purely because he's the youngest, right? Utility is everything in under 23 goalkeepers. If you can lock in a 17-year-old keeper and have him start for the next 7 years until he's, you know, 24, 23, whatever, then that is an ungodly amount of utility, right? Don't get me wrong, he could move to Europe. There is downsides, and he might bench warm for a year, 2 years, whatever. Might go on loan to a non-covered Sorare league. I'm not saying these things can't happen, because they can. But if he does stay in the MLS, is what I'm saying, he could have a really, really good season, I think. Yeah, I think this kid is probably going to be the next US men's national goalkeeper. He's pricey. 1.4 ETH for his rare, 0.23 ETH for his limited. He is pricey. You know, don't get it twisted. So I worked out the 5 players that I have listed. They ended up being like able to go into a full team, right? 1 goalkeeper, defender, 2 midfielders, and a forward. So those 5 players that I've mentioned in limited form, it would cost you roughly 0.45 Ethereum to buy that team right now in limited, which is roughly like $1,200, £900 roughly. Obviously Slonina and Jesus Ferreira being like the most expensive out of those 5. And yeah, ultimately every under 23 goalkeeper is going to be relatively expensive, right? Because of the utility, like I said. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if, you know, if you did, say if someone did buy that team for 0.45 Ethereum at the start of the MLS, or would they win enough prizes of value to, you know, yield back that 0.5 ETH in the limited? I don't know. Like, I haven't ran the numbers. I don't think you can really run the numbers. But it would be interesting to know. I think it's a very solid team. Obviously, you're going to have a lot of summer utility as well. There's obviously other leagues playing in that time. So it's not just like only the MLS. You obviously got Asia as well, and the Argentinian league, Brazilian league, Mexican. So, but I do think that would be a very solid under 23 team going into February when the MLS starts. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, please, if you want to see me do this for other leagues, whether that be Asian, Bundesliga, whatever it is, let me know in the comment section. But like I said, leave a like if you did enjoy, subscribe if you're new, and I shall see you